We're all social animals.
Yes.
So we're all trapped in this sort of sadist competition with our peers, with our family, whatever. And to go on a journey where you basically say, I'm going to try shit for 6 months and don't judge me and leave me alone is extremely difficult and uncomfortable for most people.
If you've ever sought to find meaning and direction in your career, you are not alone. In this episode of Think Beyond Possible, we dive into purpose with Chris Hugentobler, exploring anecdotes and lessons on topics that seem to be deep in the subconscious of nearly everyone's mind lately, and perhaps always and forever. Here we'll discover how the mere journey of seeking to discover your purpose may open a new world of perspectives and experiences for many, whether you take specific action or simply stumble your way into new fulfilling opportunities. As always with Think Beyond Possible, we aim to keep the conversation light and authentic, so amongst the stories and anecdotes, you'll find that we had a great time filming this episode and hope to share that energy with you. Hugentobler.
Hugentobler, yeah.
Hugentobler.
Toblerone. You know, I don't speak German.
Is your family linked to the Toblerone family?
No, they're a family of, I believe it's, actually don't know. I know if you visit hugentobler.com, it's kitchenware.
Oh.
It's like a big kitchenware company.
Did they cut you out of the...
I was trying to buy the domain.
The trust fund?
No, unfortunately, we're not related.
Oh, man.
I wish, though. That'd be a good story.
That would. We all should be have rich families. But anyway, okay, so welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Think Beyond Possible. Mm-hmm. Today, I'm joined with Chris Hugentobler, who we have history, so we'll get into that in a bit. But before we jump into that, I want to go into a little bit of admin for the show for all of our hundreds of thousands of listeners and viewers. So this is episode number 9. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. The original theme of the show was, what are you working on? What advice would you give to someone who wants to break into an industry? Or what is your idea of culture? And that's been a good guiding North Star for the show. People have actually organically come to us and said, sort of like what questions are helpful for them, what they like, what they don't like. So we've decided to evolve the show a little bit and start adding themes to the show. This particular episode, the theme will be purpose. Okay.
It's a big word.
It is a big word. Purpose. It's a good word to say. Purpose. It's fun. Like porpoise. The reason we chose purpose is because for Xccelerate, what we do, we have a lot of people that are maybe lost souls. It's not a derogatory word. People that are looking for direction in their career. And they have a dream to work in tech. Why wouldn't they? It's around us in the news. AI this, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. But they're not exactly sure if they belong there or if they would enjoy it. But a lot of our students certainly are coming from a place where they're not happy and there's no sense of purpose. Okay. So for you, Christopher, if I may, was when we talked about being on the show, I remember when I first met you. And this was during the first cohort of the Xccelerate Bootcamp. And I was a student sitting there.
You were a student. I thought you were co-organizing.
I was a student.
Incredible.
And I was about yay tall. My feet were dangling in my chair. And you were standing.
Puberty hit late.
I haven't got the mustache yet.
Still working on it. Thank you, though.
Your LinkedIn post said 29. That's like the mustache.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're standing in front of the room with your cool long hair and you're talking to us about product management. And I didn't know why I was in a coding boot camp. I just knew I wanted to do tech. And here you are talking about product management. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the job I want to be in. And you sort of gave me purpose to pursue that and sort of what direction I wanted to go in. But then looking through your profile and seeing your content and sort of the work you've done since then, I've noticed that you always seem to have some elasticity that pulls you back to your passions. So like this is a perfect episode to go into this theme. So without further ado, I'll give you a minute or two to introduce yourself.
So I'm Chris, originally from Hong Kong, worked a few years in Hong Kong, then worked a few years in Taiwan, worked a year remotely because of the agency that I started in Europe. and then finally decided to move to the States 2 years ago, where I'm now working on a AI startup that is related to supply chain and inventory planning. We can talk more about that later. Back to some of the stories you shared earlier. I sort of found myself in education by accident. That's why I think I was at that Xccelerate talk. Levine and I, we knew each other because we were both in the ed tech space. And it's kind of shocking to me now, looking back, to hear you say that I inspired you to get into product management, because to be honest, by then I probably had spent less than 6 months working on product management myself, right? So yeah, it's been a real journey. And for me today, actually, what's cool is the opportunity to catch up with you and sort of compare notes on how things have changed and what are the things we've tried and failed, and just share some stories.
Honestly, it's an honor. When we were chatting on LinkedIn and we talked about being on the show, it brought all these memories.
Tears.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that movie Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I know what you're talking about. I actually haven't seen it.
And then there's the Turbo Man, who's the superhero, and the little kid Jamie is like passing by his store, and he's like, "Wow, Turbo Man!" And like when you were standing in front of the class and talking about product management, I was like, "Oh my god, like this guy's doing what I want to do." And I think I ran up to you and I started asking you all these questions, and we connected. Then when you were back and forth in Hong Kong, you were like, "Hey man, I'm always down for a beer." So came over.
Especially if it's paid for. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of which, I should have had a beer as part of the theme.
There's one in the fridge. We can pause and
I just cut and I have a beer in my hand.
Yeah.
So let's jump into this.
Yeah.
You went from HKU with a degree in economics, and one would think the general trajectory for somebody who studies something would be pressured either personally or by their family to pursue that, especially if it's like economics, it's prestigious. But your first endeavor when you graduated was ending slavery via a race, via the power of running. So you just decided like, hey, I've spent time and, I assume some degree of money on this degree, but hey, screw that. I'm going to end slavery. What happened?
A really big theme in my career is rejection, and dealing with that rejection. Getting involved in the 24-hour race is a classic example of this. The founder of the 24-hour race was my high school classmate in Hong Kong. And what basically happened was, as I was finishing my econ degree, I thought my dream job was to join McKinsey as a management consultant. I did all the work to prepare for what they call case interviews, but I ended up bombing the aptitude test. So I decided to, I ended up with no job offer 2 months out from graduation. And luckily, my friend, founder of 24 Hour Race, my best friend, he had just dropped out of college. And essentially he told me, "Chris, don't worry. You know the McKinsey HR lady already. Just apply in 12 months. In the meantime, let's start a company together." And honestly, I had the history of working on the 24-hour race. I had the relationship with my friend, but I decided to go for it because I just wanted to, it just sounded interesting to me, right? I just wanted to try it out and see how far we could take it. I thought it'd be a cool story.
Yeah, but your co-founder, I think, was your title, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, titles, names, right? You gotta pad the resume, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I had a huge part in the initiatives that we launched that year, right? So prior to that year, the 24-hour race was a very grassroots, organic event that happened in different high schools around Hong Kong. When we decided to work full-time on the 24-hour race, it became an initiative to register Section 88 status in Hong Kong, expand the race to Singapore, Malaysia, start a corporate race. So it sort of transitioned from something to do on the side into, okay, let's set some goals. Let's go do some fundraising. Let's try to abide by the law.
Yeah.
And maybe pursue some growth, right? So it started to get a little bit more serious.
Okay.
And so I guess in that context, I consider myself a co-founder.
Why not? It's
well, absolutely. I mean, I've been padding my resume with that for years now. So.
And you've been doing it for your whole life.
But I give credit where it's due because the 24-hour race is fundamentally a student-run event.
Yes.
That's what attracted me to it in the first place. When you talk about purpose, one we'll come back to this later. I think for me, the mission of the 24-hour race, what attracted me the most was the ability to allow students, young people, to do something outside of the classroom. That's it.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. For my friend, it was a lot more about the humanitarian causes. It was much more about the anti-human trafficking aspect, working with the charities, etc. For me, it was much more about the youth empowerment, because the way it worked is every year, every event, we were building this playbook that allowed student leaders to organize the events. And for me, that was what spoke to my I guess sense of purpose.
Yes.
And it also relates back to the stuff I was doing in college with the sort of, I don't know if you know ISEC, it's this
totally
youth organization in the
fantastic youth. They're doing great things.
Again, it was the right thing for me at the time.
Yeah.
Right. When I was in college, it was the right opportunity for me, and it's what exposed me to youth development, and it's what connected the dots for me with the 24-hour race as well.
Yes.
And in that regard, I look back at the 24-hour race as a huge success, because again, we may talk about this later. We moved on after a year, and we handed it over, luckily, to a much more passionate team, because I moved into tech, basically. And the 24-hour race is still around today, right? In dozens and dozens of cities. I just had a phone call with the guys a couple of weeks ago, and there's now an initiative to expand to the States as well.
Wow.
And since I'm based there, I'm trying to just do my part a little bit and help them bridge that expansion. So without my involvement, it's ended up being quite a lasting organization.
Your
which is
systems
really cool.
and playbooks that made it what it is. And we love you, Isaac.
No,
funny enough, they do a great job. I'm not just saying this to patch it up. We'll just keep it on. We work with them on some courses, and I've been always really impressed with the level of professionalism that the students bring. So it's really cool. We actually have somebody from Isaac that's going to be on the show with me in a couple of weeks, because I want to get a student's perspective. So this is a great segue. I like to be able to call back and refer to previous episodes and sort of projects. So I think that's really cool. So next up we have, then you moved into Snapask, I believe.
So here's a story.
Yes.
Because of the 24-hour race, we were invited to Web Summit.
Okay.
In 2014, I don't know if do you know?
I went to Web Summit in
when it
Portugal.
Was in Portugal, yeah. So we went there when it was still in Dublin. It was the most incredible experience, right? The context. I had already taught myself how to make websites by this point, as a freelancer. But my studying econ at HKU, there's no role models in the context of making money on the internet, even today, to be honest. So back then, I did not connect the dots. I did not understand that actually these skills equal a legit career path, right? These skills that I've learned online can actually turn into a 10 to 20-year career.
This is like a Udemy?
No, I basically, back in the day, it was HTML, CSS, and jQuery, right?
Yeah.
So you could reverse engineer websites by inspect element on the that's why my company is called Inspect Element.
That's really. A foreshadowing.
Yeah, that's right.
And how did you feel an aptitude test if you're reverse engineering this stuff? Man, this guy's
but you gotta it's a timed pressure test, right?
Yes.
Like I think it makes sense that McKinsey knows what they're doing, obviously, in some regard.
Yeah.
They definitely know how to recruit the best, and I did not prepare.
Okay.
So we were invited to Web Summit because we were sort of the edgy, hippie kind of entrepreneur. We're not tech, but they would invite maybe 5% of attendees that are tech adjacent. We fell into that group. It was an incredibly mind-blowing event. So came back from Dublin to Hong Kong, and I realized, wow, I am in the wrong industry. We can get into that if you want. I have some strong opinions about where charity and nonprofits fit in the world.
Okay.
But I realized, okay, I need to transition to technology. So I spent the next few months doing that. And then there was around a 6-month period where I was doing my own apps, right? So 2015 was the golden age of geolocation apps, and that's what I spent my time doing.
Foursquare?
Stuff like that.
Foursquare was before that.
Yeah, we need to check the dates. There was Uber, there was...
okay.
There was another one. There was also a lot of anonymous apps getting venture funding back then in the Valley.
Okay.
So I won't go into the details, but I did a few apps in that sort of.
We don't speak of
area.
those apps.
They're good and bad ideas.
Take a sip of beer. So then you found your way into you stumbled your way into Snapask.
Well, I basically ran out of money.
Okay.
And Tim, the founder of Snapask, gave me a chance. He gave me a shot. We started out in a sort of a part-time position because I didn't actually want to work in education initially.
Yeah.
We liked each other, and he offered me an opportunity, and I finally decided to take it.
Oh, so just a guy with no job, no money.
Basically, yeah.
All right, I'll take your stinking part-time job, buddy.
I'm very grateful for I mean, I guess I was a different guy back then. I mean,
long hair, don't care.
I don't know if I had long hair yet, but I was certainly not qualified for anything that I was being paid to do.
Okay.
So,
which I think is the coolest part of this.
I think he understood my drive and my ability to teach myself what had to be done. And we sort of figured
Did you know there's this feature where you can inspect Element?
yeah.
Sign him up.
You can't do that today.
How did McKinsey miss this guy? Get it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of kids back in the day, during that time, that's how they learned how to code. Right?
No, one of our guests sitting here a couple weeks ago said that's how he learned as well. He would just reverse engineer things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone agreed to pay me money to make a website. I said yes, and I didn't know I hadn't written a line of code. And 3 months later, I made the website. Right. It was
Chris's first homepage, GeoCities.
Hugentobler,
yeah.
We actually used GeoCities in school, and here's a funny thing: when I was in secondary school, I did not get it. We were just playing Age of Empires.
Yes, bro.
In every computer.
Don't bring
class.
me down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, I did not understand that was a career. It was never a career. Until I was desperately figuring out how to pay for rent, I did not see it as a career.
Okay, so employee number one, which is cool because not only did this guy agree to pay you money, you were employee number one. Which,
he offered me equity as well, not just money.
where is this guy? I need an insurance policy here.
Yeah.
So if employee number one, for anyone, I think in most cases is a high stress situation because you're brought into a position with, in this case, very little prior experience. And
that's
sugarcoating it a bit, putting some Toblerone chocolate over that one. And then, especially for product management, you are responsible for making important decisions. So you have to go in there, you have to talk to stakeholders, you have to sort of uncover what features should and should not be implemented. You have to confidently convey that, and then you have to be responsible for decisions. So let's just put in a vacuum that this was a up and coming company with a trusting founder. How does being a first hire for companies affect your psyche and confidence and ability to learn quickly on the job? I
wanted to join a rocket ship. That was really the driving force in those 4 to 5 years. I had already abandoned any semblance of a stable career by this point. And I think on some level I had to justify to myself, my parents, my peers, the people that I
paid for your economics degree.
Look up to. I mean, HKU is relatively inexpensive. But yes, I had to justify to them that it was all going to be worth it. I had to justify to myself as well. And in Tim, I saw someone who I could learn a lot from, not hard skills, soft skills, right? He had no idea. I mean, and he will admit this, right? Back then, nobody had any idea about the hard skills. We didn't know how to build product. We didn't know how to market product. He had a little bit of domain expertise coming from an education background, but let's be honest, right? In terms of serving millions of users, a high quality product experience, it was a first time.
Tiger moms.
It was a first time for everyone. No one really knew what they were doing. But I saw myself learning soft skills from him. Okay. And I saw in him the ambition and the track record of growth.
Okay.
Yeah, I perceived it as potentially a rocket ship that I could learn from, and that's what that's what helped me deal with anything that came my way. You told me you were part of Reforge. Was that how you learned product management while on the job? Reforge, by the way, is a online community platform. It's a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I honestly don't remember when I was involved in Reforge. But it is how I met my later co-founders. Okay. Yeah. So what happened with Reforge is I think we were trying to split the cost of Reforge. And I ended up in this growth marketing community in Hong Kong, founded by Vincent, who's my co-founder in IE, Inspect Element. And essentially it was a bunch of dudes. There were a few girls, but it was mostly dudes who would meet up for drinks and discuss growth, whatever that means. Part of the proposition for some of the folks who were more interested was, let's split the Reforge cost. And there was a lot of pirating. There was a lot of content piracy going on there. It was wholesale downloading the content, and even probably some people were reselling it or something. I don't know. But anyway,
we're going to get a cease and desist from Reforge.
Well, in fact, I think we're doing a great job of promoting their content, because what Reforge did for us was supplement our bullshit with, or let's say our smarts with real life case studies.
Okay.
And why is that important? When a company starts growing and you have people from all kinds of different backgrounds, it starts to become useful to rely less on your intuition and rely more on tried and proven, whether you want to call it theory, examples, to help get the message across.
Okay.
Personally, that's where Reforge really helped me.
Okay.
Sometimes I would find something that I had already experienced in my job, and it would give me a framework to think about it more cohesively.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would show me something that I've never thought of before, and to sort of expand my mind a little bit.
And give you some ideas to steal.
Yeah.
Boss, I totally just came up with this new framework.
No, honestly, in a growing team, that's important, right? In a corporate job, that's super important. I mean, I don't
fake it till you make it. No, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I think that everyone in this, if who's watching, all 10,000 of you guys, one thing that one can do is find resources that are proven, pretend they're yours, and use it to get jobs.
And I think the greater message, the more healthy message for the listeners would be, for me, is the community, right? Because at the end of the day, Reforge helped me connect more with people that ended up becoming my business partners later in my career, right? And that was not the intention when I was ripping off, education, learning videos and having late night discussions about a case. So I guess that's a way of saying that it's really the people.
It's the people.
It's the people. Yeah.
It's the people. You're paying for people at Reforge. Now, just go. It's spoken highly regarded. So that was, we went from Snapask to Reforge, learning on the job. We're going to keep moving along with the purpose. After that, you worked for Bowtie.
Started in Inspect Element first.
Started in Inspect Element. Okay, cool. So that was with your co-classmates of Reforge. You guys are like, hey, we're all pretty smart dudes. Let's get together and let's form this agency.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Inspect Element, and let's bring it back to purpose? I have a purpose counter in my head. We've said it 30 times by now.
Well, one of the reasons I left Snapask is we had just finished our Series B, and the team had expanded to, say, 200 people.
Yeah. So
that's night and day compared to what it was when we just started. And I was feeling rather burnt out.
Okay.
That's a very big part of the reason.
Tim changed his tone on you.
I started feeling like I wasn't spending my time doing the most impactful things that I could have been doing. And, sometimes what you should be doing falls out of alignment with what the business requires.
Yes.
And after 5 years, I think I had enough, and I was interested in a change. And since I had no idea what I wanted to do, and my co-founder at the time was leaving his company in a similar position, we decided, let's just find some clients and do some agency work and sort of carry our skills over into something that can generate an income and give us some bandwidth to think about what we wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So Inspect Element happened very organically.
Yeah.
Coming out of a very intense 5-year journey, then wanting to find a sense of purpose again.
Love it. Thank you for bringing up purpose once again. So did you find, okay, we'll come back to, I want to learn more about Inspect Element. I'm trying to keep the trajectory here in line. So you founded it whilst working with Bowtie, who is an insurtech platform based here in Hong Kong. It's well regarded. How did you guys balance, how did you balance that and all of the demands there with running Inspect Element?
Yeah. So Bowtie actually came later. So initially Bowtie was a client.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So I helped them, I think, over a 6 to 8 month period with sort of a well-scoped project, working with a couple of their designers and a PM, I think,
Yeah.
or an engineer. I don't remember exactly. What ended up happening is their founder convinced me to sign an employment contract, right? So when I started in Spec Element, I was already sort of in this mindset that I would never sign a contract ever again.
Oh.
Right? I was going to be my own boss and whatever, I thought that was important to me. But as I worked with Michael, that's his name, I realized that I had a lot more to learn.
Okay.
And there was going to be a lot of things I could learn from someone like Michael. I mean, in Hong Kong, or at least in my circle, the number of great founders is very far and few between.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have an opportunity to work with one of them, I decided to seize the opportunity. So we figured out a way that I could join the company full time. But the job scope was very interesting to me because I came in with the opportunity to lead the product and design team.
Okay.
Especially the digital side, right? Because
Mhm.
you have the insurance products and then you have the digital products. So I was more on the digital side. And yeah, it was an incredible experience for 13 months.
Inspect Element seems like something that is a project of passion for you. I checked out your website recently. It's like awesome. It's looking great. You have a team. You guys are covering so much ground. How does this feel for you to have done this, to have accomplished this with great people, to have it thriving? What does it make you feel like when you wake up?
For me, was a platform I shared earlier, to meet people, learn their problems, but really to figure out what I was interested in.
Yes.
So that was my selfish secret agenda.
Yes. Here it is.
And I cannot speak for my partners, and we have new partners now. I'm sure they all have their own opinions. I'm just speaking from my own perspective.
Okay.
So that's why, for example, this weekend, on Friday, we're doing an AI hackathon, right? So in general, we believe that we want to contribute to the tech ecosystem in Hong Kong. We want to meet new people. We want to nurture more community around technology and innovation. Personally, selfishly, it was always a vehicle for me to figure out what am I actually interested in, and of course, pay the bills.
Okay. Yeah, of course. So.
And I mean, we can sort of like, spoiler alert, right? I mean, the ending of this story is
you're rich
found
now.
the thing. I wish, no, not yet. In fact, I'm broker than I was when I left IE.
This is a very authentic, transparent show.
Yeah, but what the spoiler alert is, I did end up finding what I want to work on. Right?
Okay.
And I have only my partners, Michael, my ex-boss, to thank for that.
You still have spent a lot of time working. You were a climate fellow at On Deck.
Yeah, that was the start of my journey.
You spent time as a mentor with organizations such as Time Auction.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a lot of things going on, maybe around this point, around this time. How are you balancing all this time to pursue these interests and passions and still making, obviously, an income?
Yeah. I believe that when you're doing a lot of things, it's a reflection that the main thing is not important enough.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not entirely true, but it's.
You're gonna have a lot of angry.
It's kind of true. Well, at least for me, I'm more of a if I can go all in and focus on one thing, I will.
Yeah.
So personally, right, if I was splitting my time on many things, it means that I was in that explore mode.
Okay.
So looking back, those were the right decisions at the time. I would be invited to talk about my experience with different organizations. Always happy to do that. I mean, that's why I'm more so here today to catch up with you. But in general, right, I'm happy to share. I do find myself very interested in ringing the alarm bell at HKU that people should be taking more seriously a career in technology.
Yeah.
No matter what faculty they're from.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I went to an economics and finance recruitment talk last year, and people were still talking about sort of management trainee programs at some of the, I'm not going to name names, but some of the well-known banks in Hong Kong, when you actually have so many alternatives now, both in traditional fintech and also in crypto, where young people can get exposure to finance so much more quickly.
Yes.
So I just found that disconnect to be very interesting, and I find myself wanting to ring that alarm bell. If I have the time.
Beyonce, ring the alarm.
That's the anthem. Yes.
Let's just say that there's somebody watching this show they were seeking passion, right? And they're working a job, as many do, maybe in finance, maybe for consulting, maybe McKinsey. Maybe they passed the aptitude test and they're like, "Damn, I should have failed. I would have ended up like this cool guy." What advice do you have for these individuals
Some people have a calling.
Yes.
I think if you have a calling, you don't have to ask this question. I certainly didn't have a calling. Did you have a calling?
I am still. This
Did you have a calling
podcast.
to
This
come-
podcast is my calling.
I didn't really have a calling. So
Yeah.
my approach has always been elimination,
Okay.
right? So let me go try stuff
Yeah.
and see what sticks. And that has worked out well for me.
Okay.
So in terms of, say, career choice, people ask me, hey, Chris, why do you want to be a founder?
Mhm.
There's maybe there's much better ways of using your time, etc. Well, the reason I want to be a founder is because I've tried everything else, including being a founder, and
Yeah.
I enjoy being a founder the most.
Okay.
Right? I've been an employee in an early stage company. I've worked in an NGO. I was a surf bum for a month in 6 weeks, right? Living out of a van, doing nothing. I've worked remote. I've done like the Bali sort of like go surfing at 6 a.m. and then work for 3 hours and pretend it's a productive and wholesome and, anyway, I don't want to throw more shade. So my point is I've kind of tried it all. The only thing I haven't tried is the McKinsey job.
Yeah.
Or just in a broad category of
The one that got away.
the big corp, middle management.
Okay.
Maybe I won't qualify. So let's say the big corp entry level position. I still haven't tried that yet. And I see that as my backup option.
Okay.
So one day when I run out of steam, then I will send out my resume and hopefully one of these corporations will give me a job.
For sure. I mean, like, look, all you have to do is take a little stroll down your LinkedIn profile. You have awesome content. You have a great smorgasbord of it's German again, right? Of roles, whether it was for startups or your own sort of projects. So I think a takeaway for this from viewers is, there's a lot of pressure on us to make money, to have a career, to have a plan, right? But it sounds like you have lived a life, what's the saying? It's worth traveling? I don't even know how the saying goes. A life worth living, right? You have fulfillment. You're a happy guy. Don't tell me now that actually, well, you want to know, really. I just left my therapist. Therapists are okay. But, with all your experiences, you can turn it back around and put it into something else. But it sounds like that you're very fulfilled, if I can say.
I am cautiously optimistic that I'm on the track. I am on the path to some kind of fulfillment.
This is a great time to bring up that quote of yours, which was, turned 29 today in California, woke up with a mustache, still love my work, still figuring out how to make money from it, still grinding it on the internet, still trying to solve a big intractable problem worth solving. The best birthday present is to reconnect with you, catch up on a call, blah, 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 text me to chat soon. So it sounded like you were living
and the photo, and I believe that was Red Rock Canyon, was awesome. It was great experience. But it's to quote Jeff Bezos, it's day one, right? There is so much more to do, and if you ask me now, what is my purpose? It is kind of weirdly friends and family. Actually,
okay.
I think I've parked creating impact in the mission category, right? So, I want to do a startup like Ansel that solves a very specific problem I think is important. And I want to be able to build the best solution to that problem.
Okay.
I would park that in the category of like a career mission for me. So that, because I never want to look for a job again, ideally.
Yeah.
So if I have 10, 15 years of work, okay, I'm going to make sure that mission is something that I'm going to look at and say, wow, yeah, that was epic. That was awesome. No regrets. But my personal purpose actually comes back to more to do with friends and family. Like, what is the life I envision for friends and family, and how do I enable that?
You asked me if I have a calling.
Yeah.
That's something that always worried me. I think a lot of people are worried about that because they haven't had the opportunity or the exposure to enough experiences to see what their passion or calling is. And then if you don't have that, how do you run after that and try to make money from it?
Yeah.
Right. So here, the moral of our story is, it's okay to not have one. It's okay to try things. And if you go in with the right attitude and meet the right people, some people will elevate you. They'll pay you, right? Or you'll find ways to get paid whilst trying many things. You might fall into different opportunities. Whilst you're in those, keep trying things, keep failing. I think that's the moral. You're looking at me like, dude, No.
I want to add something.
There we go.
I want to add something that I believe is important.
Yeah.
We're all social animals.
Yes.
So we're all trapped in this sort of sadist competition with our peers, with our family, whatever. And to go on a journey where you basically say, I'm going to try shit for 6 months and don't judge me and leave me alone is extremely difficult and uncomfortable for most people. When I moved to California 2 years ago, I found a sense of peace, actually.
Okay.
So obviously moving to a new country is difficult because you know no one. But on the flip side of that is there was no one asking me how I was doing.
Yeah.
And I had the total freedom to just try things out.
Yes.
And I've ended up in an industry that I knew nothing about 2 years ago, pitching customers that I did not even know existed 2 years ago, building in a market that I never heard of 2 years ago. And creating that space for yourself to do the exploration is important. Because you don't want to fight human nature. You're gonna, your girlfriend will ask you, what's your plan? Where's the money? Your mom's gonna ask you, when are you going back to school? When are you doing that job? Sometimes you just have to find the courage to block it all out.
Bro, that hits way too close to home. I
appreciate
you. I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, and so moving countries, I mean, that's the secret. Maybe going to Bali is the answer.
Yeah, I went to China. I ended up here in Hong Kong. And worst case scenario, you can play the bongos.
There's too many beautiful people in Bali. I think that'll be the ultimate distraction. Maybe Alaska or something.
I came in with this really this quote I wanted to say.
My quote.
It's from a book.
Okay.
It's from many books. You'll hear it in many different ways in many books. Without a purpose in life, you're drifting. Which was in a negative connotation, as in if you don't have a purpose and you're just drifting, what are you actually doing? We don't believe that in this table, right? Because you'll find that purpose whilst you're drifting. Because when you're drifting, you're going to bump into a cool island with Bali, with beautiful people and opportunities.
You might get lost there. Yeah, you might get trapped there, like the sirens in the Iliad.
Without a purpose, you are drifting. Do you believe in this quote? And it's in a negative connotation, as in like books that say, hey, you should find your purpose so that you are more empowered in your masculine or feminine energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's sort of become a much more straightforward purpose around friends and family.
Okay.
And I think sorting that part out, everything else will sort of follow.
So the friends and family that will tell you to get a job and get married and have kids are the same people that you want to. It's coming full circle.
I think about it more in the sense of the people that I'm going to spend the next few decades of my life with, right? Whether that's my parents or other new people that are going to come into my life, kids, right?
Yeah.
And what is the lifestyle? What are the values that I want to imbue in them?
Yeah.
And I don't have all of this figured out, right?
Of course.
But that's sort of how I think about it. I think I attach my purpose to this because it is more core to my being. And I don't need to be, I feel like I will never be sort of disappointed in picking that as my purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
but it's very personal for everyone.
Yeah.
I think the gist of your question is going back to why are you waking up in the morning, and if life is filled with suffering and pain and challenges, what is getting you through that process?
I think, you know what, I'll just be very transparent. I read things. I can read, believe it or not. There's a few books that have been interesting for me right now. I've told Sneha and the team, like I'm really interested in reprogramming your subconscious. So like differentiating between what you think in your frontal lobe and what your monkey brain thinks. And I'm really interested in trying to take more control of it. So there's a book that I find interesting. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. It's not misogynistic at all. It explains the difference between masculine and feminine energy, but it has nothing to do with genders. It's about how you feel and how you identify with these energies and how these energies work with each other. And within the definition of masculine energy, they go on a lot about, the whole book is really about purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then you can't truly convey this energy, right? Because you are just going through motions. And then how can the masculine yin be the yin yang with the feminine if you're just this purposeless person going to work and hammering a nail?
Yeah.
So one of the quotes was, without purpose, you're drifting. Find your purpose so that you can give your gift to the world. Once again, it has nothing to do with misogyny.
Yeah.
If you read the book.
I think that a lot of this is, I think if you invest the time and your passion and your interest in something, you also have the opportunity to create purpose in that thing, right? I think a lot of the value that people ascribe to things is just inherently intrinsic and irrational. What I mean by that is, say, for example, you spend 10 years building something and you've put all your energies into it, and you've tried your best to do well for your customers, stakeholders, staff, employees, etc. That can be your purpose, right? Now, whether that makes you happy at the end of the 10 years is a separate question. I think everyone deals with that differently. That's sort of, that would be how I think about this. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, don't, if you can find the thing, that's okay. You can build it, right? You can create it.
Exactly.
And you can trust the process that, at the end of the journey, you can look back and say, it's not perfect, but I did this thing and it has value, and it was worth it.
Okay.
That already makes you not an NPC.
So final question. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're working on, which actually does cleanly tie into this theme. So Ansel, when I was watching some of your recent content on LinkedIn, you literally said, I think no less than 50 times, that you're passionate about supply chain logistics and AI. And it's just you sitting with a dad hat in a park. Just on the children's playground.
There's a guy in that park that's every time I'm there, I see him. He's like a young kid doing wheelies on a bike just for like 30 minutes, right? Something about it, he just loves doing it. I mean, that's his mission, is to be
his
the
passion.
best.
That's his purpose.
There's something in that.
So you I found this really interesting, but also terrifying, because I know nothing about supply chain logistics, and that's something that's always kept me out of a lot of things that I was interested in terms of like cross-border, what have you. It could be Amazon sales, it could be product manufacturing. I'm terrified of the thought of logistics, because I would just think of factories and having to go all these different places and having to negotiate and having to know exactly what you want and having all of these schematics and such. But you mentioned that nobody starts a brand because they're inventory experts. It's all from trial and error, which is the theme
of... And it can kill your business.
It can kill your business. And you said it's all from trial and error, which is sort of summary of what we've been talking about today. You are looking for new ways of using materials in manufacturing and for demand planning. Let's go.
So Ansel is a combination of my personal experience in software and data science with this whole new area of supply chain and inventory management that I've become passionate about. I'm not going to get into the details about what Ansel does specifically, but basically, in a nutshell, we use AI to help e-commerce brands do demand planning and inventory planning in a new way. The reason that's important is because in fashion, 30% of inventory is dumped, 30% is discounted, and only 30% is sold at full price. And this is a problem that is an intractable one that has not been solved in the last 30 years of ERP and MRP, sort of digital supply chain technology.
Okay, so when you say dumped, it just ends up in a landfill, or ends up at Marshall's?
Some third world country landfill.
Okay.
So it's not this is not a unique to fashion problem. And so this is the world we live in. And you've probably heard of Shein, right? Shein. It's a fast fashion sort of like super short supply chain, very cheap products.
I mean, like I know Uniqlo, H&M.
Uniqlo, so Shein makes Uniqlo, and H&M seems low and expensive.
Oh, wow.
And so the interesting thing is the world we're moving towards is you have ultra fast fashion brands manufacturing in extremely tightly integrated supply chains with very little waste. But the end product is cheap and made of basically what I consider trash materials. So that's on the low end. And then on the high end, you have luxury brands. And everyone in the middle that just wants to design a decent product at a decent price is sort of getting squeezed. So I think it's a very interesting opportunity for us to build software to help, and technology to help the businesses in the middle. They're not fast fashion brands. They're never going to have these fully integrated supply chains compete.
Okay.
Right. And I think that's kind of gets the gist of where Ansel is going.
Mm-hmm.
And if we take a step back, and I don't know if you knew this, but polyester fiber is $100 billion a year industry,
Okay.
and is growing at 30%
Uh-huh.
year on year. So in the background, people are talking about climate change, and there's more awareness now of plastics. Plastic equals bad.
Yeah.
Not really, but that there's sort of now this rhetoric. But the polyester fiber industry has never been growing faster.
Okay.
I'm excited about the opportunity in the next 20 years for someone to replace that market.
Okay.
Polyester is new. Plastic is plastic, right? Plastic is from the 50s.
Yeah.
And all this stuff we buy now is from the 80s. So it's a very young and nascent industry with incredible product market fit.
Yeah.
And it just helped the world move forward in a great way. I'm excited about the next generation. Someone's going to build a new material that replaces plastic, and they're going to make a fuck ton of money.
That's going to be you.
And a lot of impact. Well, I don't know. I think the person that does that will be some kind of scientist.
Okay.
But they will require market making, right? They will require financing and connecting to buyers and builders and brands, right? And I think that's where our technology can come in. Yeah.
Okay.
If we're successful.
We covered so much. This was so much fun. This embodied, for me, I hope, the theme,
Passion.
the passion of and purpose of Think Beyond Possible, which is supposed to be authentic and fun to listen to, because we're all tired of just listening to two people to crossfire across the table. So with that, Chris, it's awesome to catch up with you. I'm so glad you came in. I see you having a role in this series in some way, shape, or form the next time you're in Hong Kong. So I appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Any last words? Where can we listen or hear more about you? Twitter, X, LinkedIn?
Well, I'm always looking to meet creative builders, engineers, designers. The best way to reach out is LinkedIn or email or something.
Or just go to a park and do some wheelies.
Some wheelies and you'll see me there in southern SoCal. Yeah.
A mustache man with a dad hat in the background.
Yeah,
talking about passion.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. That's it for episode 9 of Think Beyond Possible. Thank you to all 2.5 million of you for watching this show. I'm manifesting. See you in the next episode.